At the beginning of the movie, we see a woman named Gatis at her home, when suddenly there is a knock on the door. She looks through the peephole and finds Devi outside. Gatis opens the door and Devi hugs her warmly. Later they are seen talking and Devi requests her to stay in touch. Gatis replies that no one believes her. Devi reminds her, "You said he attacked you, but how is that possible? We've been free from him for a long time now." In response, Gatis reveals the bruise marks on her body. Shocked, Devi nervously asks, "Who did this?" Gatis asks why Devi doesn't believe her. Devi hugs her again, assuring her that he is dead. But Gatis insists that he is staring at her right now. Alarmed, Devi quickly checks, finds no one, and tells Gatis she will stay with her that night. Later that night, Devi receives a call from Booty. She tells him that something is wrong with Gatis, explaining that she has bruises all over her body, and keeps insisting that Ayub has abused her. Shocked, Booty reminds her that Ayub died 15 years ago and suggests that Gatis needs a psychiatrist. He adds that she has always been different since childhood. Just then, the phone line begins to distort, and Devi notices that the window is open. She goes to close it and also turns off a dripping tap. After that, she comes across some newspaper clippings related to Lasmana's death and his daughters on the table. She then notices a photograph, smiles, and suddenly her expression changes. Just then the window opens, the curtains sway in the wind, revealing a ghost. Devi slowly looks behind and is horrified as the scene abruptly cuts. The next morning, Gatis comes out of her room looking for Devi. She notices blood on the floor, dripping from above. When she looks up, she is horrified to see Devi stuck on the ceiling in a gruesome condition. Suddenly, Devi's body falls to the ground, and Gatis screams in terror as the scene cuts to black.
Comment. Subscribe to Recapss Horror.
We are then introduced to Alfie, who is shown taking her medication. She notices a strange mark on her hand. Suddenly, she hears someone calling her name, but she ignores it and heads to her sister Nara's room. Nara is seen holding a photo, and Alfie consoles her, saying that she misses him too and advises her to move on. Later that night, Alfie struggles to sleep, switching the lights on and off. Suddenly, she hears a whisper call her devil's child. Startled, she turns on the light. When it goes off, a ghost appears behind her, but vanishes as the light returns. She switches it off again, and when the light comes back on, the ghost is closer, only to vanish once more. Finally, when she turns around after switching the light on once more, no one is there, leaving her shaken. The next morning, as Alfie wakes up, she notices a man inside her house. Panicked, she fights him off, only to discover more intruders outside and near Nara's room. But one of them shocks her with a taser, rendering her unconscious. They take her to an abandoned villa, where Gatis is already present. When Alfie regains consciousness, she realizes she is in an unfamiliar place. Confused, Alfie demands answers and asks Leo about Nara's whereabouts. She tries to attack him, but realizes that her leg is tied to the bed. At that moment, Janar enters the room with Booty. Janar introduces everyone to Alfie and apologizes for the situation. Alfie again asks about Nara, and Booty assures her that she is safe with the others. Janar then begins to explain the truth. She tells Alfie that the place they are in is Batara Orphanage, built long ago by a childless couple. It was once a home filled with warmth, where abandoned children found comfort, but everything changed after the wife passed away. At that time, 7 children still remained unadopted, and as years passed, they grew older but continued to live there. That was when they realized not all adults had pure intentions. Their foster father Ayub began abusing them, and what was once a home turned into a nightmare. The man they once looked up to became the monster who made their childhoods a living hell. Anyone who disobeyed him was punished, locked in the kitchen without food, water, and light. Disturbed by the long story, Alfie tells her to get to the point. Janar continues explaining that after the orphanage was eventually shut down, the children were separated and sent to different institutions. They lived their own lives, but kept the promise to never forget each other. Finally, Alfie learns the darkest truth. They had burned their foster father Ayub to death. Booty unties her leg, and Alfie immediately attacks him. Angrily, Jannar throws Alfie her clothes, and the three of them leave the room. Later, after changing, Alfie steps out, hears a door creak behind her, and notices a burned doll. She goes upstairs and enters a room where she starts looking around. Suddenly, Ayub's ghost appears behind her, whispering her name. But when she turns back, no one is there. Just then, she spots the ghost downstairs, and it suddenly charges at her. Terrified, she falls back and runs in panic, making her way to the living room, where she finally sees Nara with the others. She hugs her sister tightly in relief. Jannar asks Alfie to sit and introduces her to Gatis, Martha, and Christy. She assures Alfie that they mean no harm to her or Nara, then explains that they believe their foster father Ayub has returned for vengeance. Alfie asks, "Returned from?" Jannar replies, "From death." She adds that Gatis was the first to encounter him, but no one believed her until he killed Devi. Christy still refuses to believe, leading Jannar to angrily scold her and order her to leave. Upset, Christy storms off. Jannar then reminds Alfie that she once told the police she had seen her father practice witchcraft, and says there must be a reason Ayub can exist here. They pass a book to Alfie, and to her horror, she finds the same ghost inside, the one she encountered 2 years ago. She suddenly starts trembling and rushes outside to vomit. Booty follows her. When Alfie asks where the book came from, he explains that, as a child, he once saw a woman give it to Ayub, though he never learned who she was. He admits he doesn't know why Ayub became entangled with dark practices. Alfie says that in her father's case, it was greed, and perhaps in Ayub's case, it was the loss of his wife. Just then, Booty's walkie-talkie crackles, and he tells Alfie that cell phones don't work here. Alfie then asks what exactly they want from her. Booty reveals that after Devi's death, Martha studied the book and discovered that Devi's death was just the beginning. Ever since Ayub's own death, a curse has been placed upon all of them. Later, they take Alfie to a room with a cellar. As children, they had always feared it, since only Ayub ever went down there. Booty unlocks it, but Christy refuses to enter. Alfie instructs Nara to stay outside with Christy. Martha also tries to back out, but Gatis insists she must come along. They descend into the cellar, where the markings of Ayub's death still remain. Suddenly, Alfie feels a chilling cold, and Martha remarks that Alfie truly is the one they've been waiting for. Opening the book, Martha explains that in the occult world, those who worship demons must surrender their souls to them. Some demons demand sacrifices in return for power. When Alfie asks about a figure in the book, Martha reveals that it is an ancient demon known as the Figure of Enlightenment and Immortality. Gatis adds that its name is Moloch. They believe Ayub intended to sacrifice them all to this entity. Martha further explains that a curse cast by a demon worshipper never disappears unless it is revoked by someone who has already survived the devil itself. She urges Alfie to read a spell to break the curse. At first, Alfie refuses, but eventually she agrees. She cuts her thumb and presses a bloody thumbprint onto the book. Immediately, something takes hold of her, and she begins to shake violently. Screaming as though possessed, she suddenly lowers her head, then looks up as the devil shows her visions. The children pouring flammable liquid over Ayub, Ayub warning them that his master would never let them go, and finally them burning him alive in the cellar. Snapping back from the vision, Alfie chants the spell before collapsing unconscious. At that moment, the atmosphere grows icy and everyone feels the chill closing in. The scene then shifts to Christy and Nara. Christy hears static from the walkie-talkie, and at the same time, Leo experiences the same interference. A ghostly laugh echoes, and a frightened Leo says, "Hello, Christy?" The ghost replies, "Christy belongs to me now." Terrified, Leo throws the walkie-talkie away, but it continues to emit the ghost's maniacal laughter. The group panics as a saw blade begins vibrating. Suddenly, the cellar door slams shut, and the furniture shakes violently. Just then, everything goes still. Then a chair trembles and starts sliding toward them. It halts for a moment, then levitates into the air before crashing down. Soon, all the chairs are hurled across the room by an unseen force, and a cupboard topples over. The saw blade vibrates again, then suddenly spins at full speed, whirling straight toward the group. It nearly strikes Jannar, but she narrowly escapes. At that moment, Alfie sees the ghost of Ayub hovering above Jannar, something no one else can see. Jannar slowly looks upward, only for the ghost to grab her by the throat and lift her into the air. Booty and Alfie rush to save her, but then Ayub's ghost calls Alfie's name, leaving her terrified. The entity twists Booty's fingers grotesquely, and Jannar falls to the ground. The ghost again moves to Jannar and seizes her by the hair and brutally slams her head against the floor again and again. Only Alfie can see the ghost, while it remains invisible to the others. She screams helplessly as the entity brutally kills Jannar. Meanwhile, Nara and Christy hear the screams. Christy grabs a knife and opens the cellar door. Alfie yells at her to lock it, but before she can react, Ayub's spirit escapes and knocks Christy down. The spirit possesses her, and Christy begins to violently trembling. Nara watches in shock as Booty tries to flee, but Christy suddenly sits upright, slams the door shut, and then turns to attack Nara. Nara slams another door shut, bracing herself as Christy pushes violently from the other side. Christy wedges her head into the gap of the door, forcing Nara to push back with all her strength. Finally, Nara shoves her away and steps aside. Christy bursts in, crashes into a chair, and collapses, giving Nara a chance to escape. Christy gets up, and Nara runs upstairs and hears Christy's voice. She keeps running, when suddenly Christy comes charging after her, haunting her. She runs towards Nara, and Nara locks herself in a room. Christy bangs her head against the door, trying to break in, then climbs onto the door. Visibly enraged, she bangs her head again and starts jumping on the door, while Nara screams Alfie's name in fear. Meanwhile, Alfie struggles to break open the cellar door. Christy finally crashes into the room and collapses. After lying still, her eyes snap open. She crawls across the floor, searching frantically for Nara. She opens a cupboard and shoves clothes aside, desperately looking, but doesn't find her. Nara is actually hiding on top of the cupboard. Suddenly, Christy climbs up, grabs Nara and haunts her. Nara shoves Christy away and pulls the cupboard down on her. Believing she has killed the ghost, Nara tries to leave, but Christy's hand suddenly bursts out from beneath the wreckage. Just then, Alfie arrives and sends Nara outside. Christy snarls, "Alfie, your father sends his regards from hell." Enraged, Alfie savagely hits with a metal rod. She strikes again and again until Christy dies. But then the entity hisses Alfie's name. "He is still waiting for you. You may have escaped once, but you are still condemned." As Alfie raises the rod again, she realizes Christy is already dead. Leo then yells at Alfie for killing Christy, saying she was like a sister to him. Alfie shouts back that she wasn't Christy anymore, deciding it's too dangerous. She orders the cellar door to be sealed. She then notices Gatis nervously biting her nails while clutching the cursed book. Alfie confronts Martha, accusing her of telling her to recite that specific spell. She demands to know how Martha knew which page it was, when supposedly only Alfie could recite the incantation. She accuses Martha of lying, but Booty steps in to defend Martha. But Alfie decides to leave with Nara, declaring she has done all she could. Booty agrees and says he'll drop them at the train station. But when he tries to start his car, the engine won't turn over. The wires have been cut. Suspicious, he goes to ask Leo about it. Meanwhile, Alfie begins to feel an unease. She tells Nara they were never meant to be here. Nara tries to calm her, but her voice turns demonic as she hisses, "We're not going anywhere, devil's child." Horrified, Alfie looks into the rearview mirror and sees a ghostly figure behind her. She turns, but it's just Nara sitting there. When Alfie looks forward again, a ghost lunges at her. In a split second, Alfie finds herself back inside the house, frantically searching for Nara. Just then, the lights go out and Alfie notices a music doll, which suddenly falls. A ghostly hand picks it up while calling Alfie's name. The ghost emerges, its body bent unnaturally backward. Seeing this, Alfie is terrified. The ghost rushes toward her, and she panics, running until she stops at the stairs. The ghost stares at her and whispers, "Devil's child." Alfie then finds herself in a room where she sees her father, Lesmana, pulling strands of hair out of his mouth. He warns her that the devil still wants her. When Alfie asks who he means, he replies that she already knows its name. Alfie blames him for everything that happened to her and Nara, but Lesmana insists that he tried to stop it. He explains that the demon demands her soul, dragged her into this place, and orders her to leave. Suddenly, Ayub appears behind Alfie and grabs her hand. Just then, she wakes up with a burn mark on her arm. Shocked, Booty quickly bandages her wound and tells her she had passed out in the car. Alfie explains that Ayub will never let them go. He is a demon who demands sacrificial children. She wonders why Ayub has returned and insists on seeing the book. Martha and Leo bring it, and Alfie apologizes to Martha. Booty then asks about Gatis and sends Leo to look for her. Martha explains that the book has been used by many people to summon entities. Alfie warns her not to meddle with such things. As Alfie studies the book, she remembers the bandage on Gatis's thumb and grows suspicious while looking at their childhood photo. Meanwhile, Leo searches for Gatis, and we see her hiding behind a door. He notices a blood symbol above the cellar, and suddenly Gatis appears behind him, pushing him and locking the door. As he pleads with her, she coldly says that Father Ayub ordered his punishment and begins acting strangely. Suddenly the lights go out, and Leo screams. He lights a lighter and sees his younger self knocking and begging to be let out. The apparition warns that they will all die here, that Ayub will never let them escape. He haunts him and then vanishes. Desperate, Leo tries to contact Booty, and beside him we see Christie's corpse crawling from a coffin. The corpse begins to move, catching Leo's eye. Terrified, he lights his lighter to search for it, but it suddenly appears behind him. The corpse stretches out its hand and lunges toward him, frightening him badly, and Leo screams in terror. It then strikes his head and vanishes. Leo starts laughing strangely, falls and bursts into laughter again. Suddenly, Ayub seizes his face, shoves his hand into his mouth, rips it apart, and drags him into the cellar. Meanwhile, Alfie realizes that Gatis is suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Furious, she confronts Martha, accusing her of resurrecting Ayub with the spell. As Alfie tries to leave, Gatis locks the door. At that moment, Booty's walkie-talkie crackles with Ayub's voice. He says Leo is with him, and Booty is next, followed by cruel laughter. Enraged, Alfie smashes the walkie-talkie and demands Booty's help to break the door open. Upstairs, Gatis lies on Ayub's bed, saying, "Father, I am ready to serve you as you serve him." Suddenly, she begins laughing maniacally as ghostly hands crawl across her legs, and Ayub's spirit appears, smiling at her. Gatis cries out, "I am ready, Father," and with a violent explosion, everything falls silent.
You're still watching? Good. Like, comment, and subscribe to Recapss Horror.
Booty and Alfie finally manage to break open the door and find Gatis calmly sitting on the stairs. Gatis coldly declares that Booty will soon join Leo. When Booty tries to reason with her, she says they are all blind to Father's greatness. She insists that Father loved them all and begged Moloch so they could be united, yet they betrayed him and killed him. Booty angrily reminds her that Devi died for her, and at that moment, it is revealed that Gatis herself was the one who killed Devi. She admits that after studying the spells repeatedly, she succeeded in summoning Ayub, even if only briefly. She proudly claims that Father Ayub cares for her, and that he showed Devi her soul belonged to him. Alfie realizes that in order to permanently resurrect Ayub, Gatis needed someone with a connection to an even greater power, and that chosen person is Alfie herself. Gatis insists this was destined, and calls Alfie fortunate to be chosen by the Great One. She then orders Booty to kneel before her, but he refuses and burns the book. Instantly, Gatis extinguishes the flames with her powers, twists Booty's arm, and slams him against the wall, knocking him unconscious. She retrieves the book and tries to attack Alfie, but an unseen force shields Alfie from her attack. Realizing this, Alfie strikes back, saying that she has survived something far more powerful than Ayub. Gatis retaliates by hurling Booty's body at her. Martha shoves Nara aside, urging her to run. Gatis tells Martha that Nara belongs to Father. Martha asks why she lied about the ritual bringing happiness. Gatis replies that Father Ayub opened the way for her too when they were kids. Alfie warns her not to listen, but Martha, enraged, attacks Gatis. Gatis stops her effortlessly and stabs Martha instead. She embraces Martha, recalling their childhood, but Martha defiantly responds and takes the book away. Gatis angrily shoves her, sending both Martha and Alfie crashing into another room. She mocks Alfie, saying if she survived the devil, she can survive this too, then sets the room ablaze and locks it. As the flames spread, the fatally wounded Martha presses the book into Alfie's hands. With her dying breath, she tells Alfie that she is the chosen one who must stop Gatis and Ayub. Alfie says she doesn't know how. Martha guides her to find the symbols and read the spells. With that, she dies. Meanwhile, Nara hides from Gatis, but is soon discovered. Nara bravely attacks her, shoving a taser into her mouth, causing Gatis to collapse. Relieved, Nara begins to walk away, but suddenly Gatis calls out to her, rising again and slowly advancing. At the same time, Alfie opens the book and discovers strange occult symbols and spells. Cutting her thumb, she smears blood on the page, forms a demonic sign with her hand, and chants the incantation. She gains supernatural powers. Her hand turns black and demonic. She immediately wakes Booty and takes him outside. Booty cries, mourning that all his friends are dead. Alfie encourages him to live and urges him to fix the car while she goes back to search for Nara. As Alfie enters the house, the door slams shut. Inside, she sees Lesmana and her stepmother Lakshmi, eerily smiling as they sit motionless, watching TV. On the screen, Alfie sees Nara crying for help. Suddenly, Ayub appears on the screen, laughing. Enraged, Alfie smashes the TV and heads toward the cellar. She enters the cellar where the devil's voice declares she is in his world now. Frightened, Alfie finds an exit and climbs back into the house. Hearing a noise and thinking it's Nara, Alfie enters into a room, only to find Leo's mutilated corpse, who haunts her. Panicked, she runs out and stumbles into another room where she finds child versions of Christy and Janar. When asks them about Nara, they point in different directions. Suddenly, Nara's voice echoes from the ceiling, and the children transform into ghosts, lunging at Alfie, but with her new powers, she manages to escape. Alfie enters a room where she finds Martha's lifeless body lying on the bed, and in the same room she discovers Nara. But suddenly, Martha rises. Horrified, the two run out as Martha calls Alfie's name. When they turn back, they see her advancing toward them. She pauses, drapes a white cloth over herself, and transforms into Ayub, terrifying them both. Alfie tells Nara to run while she stays behind to fight. Ayub declares that she belongs to him, but Alfie refuses to be afraid. For a moment, Gatis's face flickers through Ayub, and he charges at Alfie. Now in Gatis's form, she taunts Alfie that her powers are useless if she doesn't know how to use them. Gatis then vomits blood onto Alfie, extends her long tongue, and tries to force it into Alfie's mouth. Alfie grabs a knife and slashes it, forcing Gatis to retract, enraged, before hurling Alfie aside. Nara rushes to Alfie's aid, but the devil's voice warns he can possess anyone. Alfie struggles to summon her powers and fails. The demon declares that once her soul is separated from her flesh, she will be the ultimate sacrifice. Alfie signals Nara to run toward the ladder. Gatis turns on Nara, giving Alfie the chance to strike, but Gatis overpowers her, smashing her head and strangling her. Fingers push through Gatis's mouth, followed by writhing tentacles. Just in time, Alfie summons her powers, chants a spell, and controls a saw blade, driving it into Gatis's head and killing her. Alfie rushes for the exit, but Gatis resurrects, pursuing them outside and hurling the saw blade after them. Alfie and Nara run for their life, but Gatis follows laughing maniacally, only to be rammed by Booty driving the car. As Booty approach Alfie and Nara, Gatis suddenly begins gagging as though choking, crying out to her father not to abandon her. To their horror, Ayub tears his way out of Gatis's stomach. Growling eerily, he yanks out her intestines wrapped around his neck and advances on Alfie, Nara, and Booty. He lunges at Booty, but Alfie intervenes, forcing him to vanish. Suddenly, Alfie starts to feel something taking over her as Ayub tries to possess her. Before he can take full control, Alfie stabs herself. Her throat convulses violently before she collapses. Booty and Nara desperately try to revive her as the screen cuts to black. When Alfie awakens, she finds herself in a strange realm. Moloch appears, asking if she knows where she is and if she is ready. Alfie demands to know where Ayub is. Moloch raises his hand, showing Ayub's face beneath his skin, and says he's in eternal damnation. Moloch mocks her, saying she is foolish to think she can escape destiny even after losing so much. He condemns her for trying to extinguish her own life, as though her soul belonged to her alone. "No!" he roars. "Your filthy soul has been mine since you were a child. Only I shall claim it. Your soul belongs to Moloch." With that, he restores Alfie's life and she suddenly wakes up. Nara embraces her tightly. At the same time, Booty sees visions of his family standing before the burning house as the camera pans toward the sky. The next morning, the three prepare to leave. Booty asks if they still need the book, and Alfie decides to keep it with her. Together, they drive away and the movie ends. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a scare. Until next time, stay spooky.